So next we're going to see what is DREP process. So here in the previous section we have seen about what is email structures. We have seen different structure in the email format. Now we are going to see how to implement this structure in the mailer, right? So when you are using a mail process, we want to understand how this mail can be even more properly structured using a setup called DREP. So as you've seen in my one of the course objective is to write an effective email using a DREP process. Yes, so DREP process is something which helps you to write a mail more effectively. So first let us break down what DREP is. So it is draft, revise, edit, and proofread. So this is the DREP process. It's first draft and then it's revise and then it's edit and finally it is a proofread part. So this DREP is something which is like an additional tool which is used when you're structuring a message, right? So it DREP does not break the structure of the email. It actually follows the same structure, but when you are actually when you received a mail and you want to send a mail or when you want to draft a new mail also, we will not know, we just know the structure but we don't know how to actually formulate the mail format. So this DREP is where we know how to formulate a mail, and then once you formulated a mail, then you will use the structure to make it even more centralized and even more full-fledged mailer. So that is how it works. So first let us understand the step-by-step process. So first we're going to see is draft. So when you are writing a new mail or when you're actually responding to a mail, the first one is a draft. So people actually sometimes what happens is when you receive a mail or when you're sending a mail, so immediately what happens is whatever thoughts are coming, you will just type it and you will send it. So you will not follow the structure. You will not ensure that email has addressed all the information or not. So immediately what people will do is they'll, once the mail is received, they just want to clear the queue, they'll immediately send it. Or they will never read the mail at all. So there are only two extremes which people follow. But usually what we will say when you're in a proper email etiquette is when you want to draft a mail, a new mail, or probably when you're replying to the mail, you have to first understand the context of the mail. So why, what, and is this message is being sent to me, right? So what and why is the message? As you've seen in the message format also, the language part and all this. So first we want to understand what is the context of the message. So what is the purpose, what is the focus point, and what is the action items, and what is the call for action which are being sent in the mail. This can be followed if the person has followed a structure. If he is not following the structure, then the primary understanding is you have to understand the context of the mail. So when I'm saying context of the mail here, I think you just have to recap the section where we are talking about email communication, where we talked about implicit task and explicit task, where implicit is something which is implied, which has hidden details in the message, whereas an explicit task is something which is open. So this is something which you can use for the context of the mail, whether it is an implicit or an explicit task which you are going to send or probably reply to the message. Then what you just do is you just have to type your thoughts in the message body. And one of the very primary thing when you are in this DREP process, when you are actually in the draft stage, you should not type any respondent mailers or respondent address in the to CC or BCC header, because you are just drafting. You just started the mail. You're just starting to draft it. So it is not a full-fledged mail. It has to undergo even more further steps. So you might accidentally send a message by just clicking the send buttons. To avoid that, if you are not typing any recipients in the to or CC header, then your email will not be sent, because it will, if you only type the recipient address, the email will be sent. So this also you should follow. So you just have to type your thoughts in the message body, which can be a random thought which is being typed. So you just have to draft it. As I told you, do not concentrate on the errors, as this is just a draft. So in this draft stage, do not concentrate more on the grammatical vocabulary, or like don't give too much on errors part. You just type your random thoughts in that drafting stage. So because why we wanted to have is your flow of thoughts, because thought flows when the flow is not break. So thought has to be without any break. The thought has to be communicated. Then only you will not miss any main points. So this is just like snippets which are typing in the message body. Of course, this will go through various stages. So in the drafting stage, the first thing is you just have to understand the context, and then just your type your thoughts in your message body. And another very important point you have to follow is do not type any recipients in the to or sending draft. So as I've told you in this DREP process also, we're going to see some scenario. We're going to take a particular message, and we're going to see how this message can be drafted, like how this message can be made effective using this DREP process. So as I told you, each and every process we're going to see a scenario, and we're going to understand how this email is being structured. So here comes the scenario which is used for the draft section. So next you have is what is the to do for draft. As I've told you, two things. One thing is ensure you include all your thoughts as it helps you prepare the outline. The next thing is do not type any recipients in the to or CC. So these are two things while you are drafting, and just follow the scenario part where I have explained you on how is the stage used for drafting also. So what is the next thing in DREP? So D stands for draft. Next thing is R. So R and E is the same process, which is revise or edit, because both sounds very similar. It can be either revise or you edit it. So what is revise or edit? So as you have your draft ready, next is to ensure that the following steps are followed. So you have flown your thoughts inside the message. Now the next thing is you have to revise or edit it. The first thing is email structure is followed throughout the mail. As the previous section, I have given you a skeleton framework of email structure. So just follow that whether the email structure is being followed or not. So that is very important. Next thing is check for the language in the message. So you can again go through the previous section where we have used the language guideline in the message. The third thing is just check for any spelling errors, any grammatical errors or not. So structure is followed, then the language of the message is very clear, and the spelling errors where do not actually customize or do not take off the thought, but restructures your thoughts, restructure the outline using this tool, right? So you just email structure and language part and the spelling errors. So that is how it's done. Now next we are going to see a scenario where we have already drafted a mail. We have actually put our random thoughts. Now the same mail we are going to use the revise and edit process, and we are going to see how that particular draft can be translated into a better format. We're going to see a structure, and we're going to check for grammatical errors, and we're going to check for the language in the particular draft. Okay, so we have done the draft, we have done the revise and the edit part. So what is revise edit to do is, first thing is ensure that the email structure is followed throughout the mail, and then the second part is do check for the spelling errors. Now your email is almost 70 to 80% ready, because you have drafted it and you have actually revised and edited it using a proper email structure. And finally, a final check is being done. So that is where the proofread comes. So after you have revised and edited your content, it goes to the final process, which is just proofreading. So many people can say that, okay, you have drafted, you have revised, and you have edited, you have seen everything. So immediately you can send a mail, right? So why there is a need of proofread again? Sometimes you might miss it, or sometimes there might be errors, because it is a written communications, errors cannot be avoided. So that is where this process comes in, where you are again going to proofread. What is proofreading basically is, you're just going to skim and scan your content where it is actually having all the particular points which is being added. So while you're proofreading, kindly ensure that the mail has two elements. It's very important. So now you have to cross verify your content using these two logics. The first one is cohesion. What is cohesion is, it is actually the logic and the connect is embedded in the message from the beginning till the end. Sometimes you might start with another logic and you might end with another logic, and there is no connection between these two starting and ending. So always ensure that your logic and connect is embedded in the beginning till the end. So it has to flow. Then only the conversation has a start and an end. So if your conversation or if your message does not have a start and end, then probably your email is again being collapsed. So you will not be able to do what your purpose is. The same thing is coherence. What is coherence is your message should have clarity and the content should not be ambiguous. When I say ambiguous is you should not be like your content should not be as you want to put every thought in your mail, you should not put everything in your mail. So your mail is not a letter, it is an email. Email has a restriction, email has restriction of words, it has email has a restriction of length. So your message should have clarity. If it lacks clarity, then and your message is here and there and your content is not properly organized, then probably then that also fails. So drafting your thoughts is only done, revise and editing you're just checking for the errors, but you might miss these two ingredients which is there. But it is good that if you follow this while you are doing it in the revise and edit stage itself. If you are missing it, then comes the final part which is proofreading, where in this you have to do it where it is cohesion and coherence, where a logic and connect is embedded and message has clarity. Now finally we are going to take the mail which is already being drafted and already has been revised. Now we are going to finally see a proofread of this message, and we are going to check two parameters: whether the message has cohesion, whether it has logic, and there is a connect overall in the message, and finally we are going to see whether the message has clarity part. So this is what we are going to see. So finally, yes. So proofread to do. So your message should have cohesion and coherence, and this is where after your proofreading is done, then only you have to type the recipients and send the mail. So do follow this culture of CC and 2. So don't miss this, because email structure 2 and CC is very vital, because as I told you, that only implies it. So if you see here, we have seen 4 steps. You have seen draft, we have seen revise and edit, and we have seen proofread. So only in the fourth stage or third stage probably we are actually typing the recipient address, which we are doing it in a reverse order. The first thing we type is 2 and CC, and then we'll write the subject line, and then we'll directly write the draft. We'll not see whether it's done or not. We'll send the mail. But yes, so DREP is the process. So once DR is being adopted in every mail, what happens is slowly you will gain pace, and this DREP can be done within a few minutes of your mail communication. So DREP is not a very separate process. It is not something a separate tool which you are running and which actually breaks your chain of email structure. No, it is just a cross check. It is just like a quality tool which is ensuring that your DREP process is done. So your email is structured properly. So it is not very different, and you should not think that DREP is separate and email structure is separate. There is no two different process. Email structure is a structure. It is a skeleton framework, whereas DREP is a process which is ensuring a quality thing. So finally, we are coming to the conclusion part. So DREP process ensures that your email is properly structured and the flow is drafted only after proper consideration. So very important, if you see, it is done only with proper consideration. So what is this proper consideration? Is meaning that your email is actually gone through different stages of process in a form of DREP. And the second thing also, before replying any email, first read the mail once or twice and ensure you address what is asked first and then put your thoughts. So this is something very, very important. As I told you, even your structure is followed, even DREP is followed, all this will be effective only when you read a mail once or twice. Only when you understand what is the context of the message. If you're not understanding the context of message, then whatever you're following, whatever structure is being followed, will not serve the primary purpose, right? And then ensure that you address what is asked first. That is also very important. So this is something. There are two things. One thing is you have acknowledged, and then the second thing is you are actually giving a lot of importance or priority to what has been sent to you, and then put your thoughts. So many people put their thought first and then they reply what has been asked. So this is again implies that whatever mail has been sent, you will not take much care about it, but still you will send what is being needed or what you want to communicate. So it actually again fails the process, right? And the third and final thing is always think in the receiver mindset and always be empathetic in your thoughts. So, as I told you, when you're sending any emails, always be empathetic in the person who's reading, because all this process we are actually doing it to make a communication more effective. When I say effective, empathy also plays a very vital role in your conversation, because this is a professional setup. You will not know what is the receiver's mindset. He might be any, he can be in any mindset. So why this structure, why greetings, why pleasantry, and why this message, and why signature, why a subject line? Everything is being drafted, or everything is being coined only keeping receiver in the mindset, right? So this is something all about email writing. So email writing has two sections. One is the email structure, and next thing is DREP. So hope you will use this process and you will set this outline based on as is being given in the sections, and do repeat these sections to understand, and do repeat the scenarios on see how it works. And also you can adopt this in your professional scenario as well, where you want to see how an email structure is being followed, or you can take your mails also and you can see what is the response you've got, and you can restructure the mails using this DREP and the email structure.